I'm realizing I have a lot of new followers recently. I've been on Facebook much more often. I've been guided to really just give so much free content and just share my gifts with people. And so it's been just so fulfilling and so amazing to be able to connect with people through that Facebook Live, and now being able to connect here. I'm thrilled to have you here. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself because I think most of you don't know much about me. And so I just wanted to give you a little bit of background. So again, my name's Lisa Jones. I grew up in Colorado. And when I graduated, I went to San Francisco and started my career with Price Waterhouse as an accountant in the tax department. I went out there fully determined to go, be a career woman, and I wasn't going to date anyone. I was super focused on getting to that partner track, just putting the blinders on and going. However, on the very first day, I was in a conference room and they said, "We'd like to introduce you to your new team." And so in walked Celia, and then in walked Liz, and then in walked Brian, and then in walked Ian. And the minute he walked through the door, I said, "Wow, now there's a guy I could marry." It was one of those intuitive moments that I can't explain, but I just had a real sense of knowing what was going to happen. So a few months later, we had gone out on a date, and then 2 days after that, there was a big earthquake in San Francisco. It was during the World Series. And so everybody from the office ended up coming to my house. So long story short, that's when Ian said, "Hey, why don't we start dating?" So I agreed. And then 2 years to the day, he proposed. And on that day, there was a huge fire in Berkeley that burned down 2,000 homes. So we had this kind of rocky start, with natural disasters. We did get married. Unfortunately, 2 months after we got married, his father came to visit us, and he had a heart attack while he was visiting us at our home. And that was really devastating. And back in this time, I just want to let you know, I knew I had an intuitive sense, but I didn't know the gifts that I really had within me, because I didn't even know what to do with them. I just knew I was intuitive, but I didn't know what to do with them. He passed away, and that was quite shocking. And then we had a daughter about a year later, and she was born with her esophagus not attached to her stomach. And she had a 50-50 chance of living or dying. They really didn't know. She needed 6 hours of surgery the day she was born. I just really prayed a lot, and I was very religious. I was brought up to believe that, it's all about praying to God and that things would happen. So she did. She survived. She's doing great. She's 22, just graduated from college. So thrilled about that. We then had our son, and thankfully he was perfect. He's such a great kid, and he's 20. He's going to be a junior in college. Unfortunately, my husband, Ian, ended up getting a cancer diagnosis when the kids were 1 and 3. And that just absolutely devastated my life. And I went to get a massage, and I started crying when I was on the massage table, and the woman asked me, what was wrong? And I told her my husband had just been diagnosed. And she said, "Well, have you been praying to your angels?" And I just was like, stop touching me and let me out of the room. I didn't know anything about angels or what she was talking about, praying to them and asking them for help, and it just totally freaked me out. She did tell me that she would ask her angels for help with everything, including parking places. And in the little town that I lived in, it was really hard to get parking. So I started asking, because I just thought, well, why not? Let me just see if this works. And sure enough, I started getting parking places. That was really the beginning of me realizing that there was this connection, and I had a real direct connection to being able to communicate with angels. And but again, I didn't tell anyone. I thought this was really crazy stuff. I was an accountant. I feel like I lived in a box. 7 years later, after a very long cancer diagnosis, and I got more and more involved with talking to the angels. And again, this was just for me, just to keep my sanity. The night that my husband died, it was a complete awakening on another level for me, because it always brings me such emotion when I talk about it. So he was laying on in our room, and his brother and best friend had just arrived. So I went and slept in my daughter's room. And I prayed to the angels, and I just asked for grace and peace, because we knew that the end was coming. We just didn't know when. And the next thing I know, I woke up. All I can say is it was heaven. It was this beautiful place that had roads made of gold, and the buildings were made of platinum, and there were just colors that I've never seen before. And the gathering of people that were awaiting Ian were standing there. They weren't even standing there. They were rushing forward to this gathering area, and there were trumpets, and there were flags and balloons, and there was a beautiful voice. I can remember it so clearly. The Grand Mr. Ian Sharp is about to arrive. And just everybody came together, and they were just waiting and couldn't wait. And so these were all of his soul connections and passed away loved ones and everybody that was there. And I was there standing amongst them waiting for him to walk in. And just at that moment, a giant door started to shift open, and everybody stopped and just looked at the door and waited, and they were starting to cheer and clap. And just then, brother-in-law knocked on my door, my daughter's door, and said, Lisa, wake up. Ian just took his last breath. And I'm telling you, that just shifted my life like you would not believe, because again, being raised so religiously, I believed that if you weren't baptized, you would go to hell. And Ian was not religious and didn't want to be baptized and didn't care to be baptized. And so I was frantic trying to get him baptized before he died, and he refused. And so I truly believe that God and the angels gave me this beautiful scene so that I knew that he would be okay. After that, I walked away from my church. There were a lot of other issues about that. I actually have a whole book that I wrote, my memoir, Art of Living Happy After the Loss of a Loved One, how I shifted from, being a CPA, certified public accountant, into channeling people's angels. I still call myself a CPA, but it's now for channeling people's angels. And just the whole transition of moving from that kind of 3D life into a more spiritual life of connecting with this other dimension. And I recently looked up medium, the definition, and I was trying to look up psychic medium, what that means. And I put in physics and definition of medium, which I thought was kind of interesting. And truly, it's the perfect definition. It's something that holds the vibration between two different energies. And I feel like that's what I am. I'm a medium because I'm able to connect to this higher level of connection, or this beyond us, as well as here on earth. And so that's how I'm able to open this portal, and I'm able to translate what I'm being told from above to everybody here. Also, my name, Millionaire Medium. When my husband passed away, unbeknownst to us, he was covered under 2 different life insurance policies. And so suddenly I found myself being a millionaire, which was completely a surprise to me. I've struggled with being a millionaire. And I grew up with money, but again, it was very secretive. My grandparents were quite wealthy, but it was never talked about. And not only was it not talked about, but money was something we only talked in hushed voices, and it wasn't polite. So I'm suddenly being thrust into this world of being a millionaire, and yet also being this medium. Just finally decided, it was this last December, that I had to own my true self, which is a millionaire and a medium. It's been difficult because I live in a beautiful high-end neighborhood with $1 million homes, and I don't talk a lot about what I do with them. And yet when I'm on stage and doing my medium work, I don't talk about being a millionaire. So I just decided I just had to come clean and just be out with it, just come out and just own who I am and why I'm here. And if it helps anyone else, that's what I'm doing.